The story begins when Teao comes back home after sneaking out to play soccer and runs into his older brother, Oscar. Oscar notices that Teao has hurt his knee and warns him that he will get in trouble if their grandmother finds out he ran away. Wanting to keep having fun, Teao invites him to go to the movies, but Oscar refuses because he prefers to study, even though they are already on vacation. At that moment, Teao mentions that he heard the neighbors talking about their mother, saying that she might have left with another man and left her children in their grandmother's care. Oscar does not believe the rumors and says that, since their mother was an extremely talented scientist, it is more likely that she got trapped in some strange portal from one of her experiments. Because of that, he says he will study everything he needs to until he finds a way to rescue her. Teao makes fun of him and claims that time travel does not exist, then starts rummaging through their mother's belongings. This makes Oscar angry, and he orders him to stop, accusing him of not respecting the memory of their mother. Later, their grandmother Maria talks with Oscar, who confesses that he is tired of always having to deal with his younger brother's bad behavior. Even so, Maria reminds him that no matter what happens, they are still brothers, and then she says goodnight to both of them so they can go to sleep. Days later, Oscar visits a shop to talk with his friend, the owner, and there he sees Elena, the man's daughter, Rive. Since he feels something special for her, he gets nervous and, after chatting for a bit, the girl leaves. Later on, Oscar runs into Elena and her friends, who invite him to go to the movies with them. However, before he can answer, Teao shows up and says that his brother cannot go because he is too busy. Hearing this, the others leave without insisting, and Oscar, saddened by what happened, decides to stop covering for Teao's secret escapes, which end up being discovered by their grandmother Maria the next day. Teao sneaks into his mother's office and takes one of her folders. Inside, he finds several work records and an old photograph. Just then, Oscar comes back home, so Teao quickly runs to put everything away so he will not be discovered. While Oscar gets distracted feeding his turtle, the boy takes the chance to return the folder to its place. The problem is that one of the sheets is left on the table, and Teao quickly hides it inside one of the books on the shelf. Minutes later, Teao goes to the place where his mother took the photograph that he now carries in his backpack and sits on the ground to eat his snack. When he finishes, he throws a banana peel, but it disappears as it is absorbed by some kind of portal. Curious, the boy drops another object from the top of the building and confirms that something strange is happening. Then he throws a pair of lost skates and is surprised to discover that there is a hidden portal in that spot. Realizing that he can only reach it from above, Teao climbs back up the building and throws a few more objects to make sure he is not imagining things. Convinced that it is real, he runs to tell his brother. However, when he gets home, he discovers that Oscar found their mother's folder and realized that Teao used several of its pages to make paper airplanes. Trying to keep his brother's anger from ruining his discovery, Teao tells him what he saw, but Oscar pushes him and orders him to leave him alone. Fed up with everything, Teao pushes Oscar back, which makes the older brother try to attack him. Frightened, the boy runs to look for his grandmother. Maria, furious when she sees her grandsons fighting once again, decides to punish them both. After the punishment, Teao tries to make things right and asks Oscar not to be mad at him, but his brother completely ignores him and focuses only on his turtle. Upset and wanting revenge, Teao secretly takes the animal to the portal and decides to drop it from the top of the building. To his surprise, the turtle goes through the portal and disappears. As the days go by, Oscar becomes more and more worried about his pet's disappearance. Desperate, he puts up posters all over the city in the hope of finding it, but nothing works. Frustrated and with no idea what else to do, he finally breaks down in tears and is comforted by his grandmother. Seeing his brother's pain, Teao feels deeply guilty and decides to return to the portal. Without thinking too much, he jumps in and is sent somewhere else. When he lands, Teao finds himself on a lawn and discovers that the turtle is there, safe and sound. Relieved, he picks it up and, after returning home, leaves it next to Oscar's bed. The next morning, Oscar wakes up and gets ready for work without noticing his younger brother. That is when it is revealed that Teao has traveled to the future because Oscar is now an adult and is not even surprised to see the turtle beside him. Soon after, Oscar goes to his friend's shop, the vendor, who gives him some products to help him take care of his grandmother. At that moment, Elena appears and Oscar is completely fascinated by her. During their conversation, the vendor proudly mentions that his daughter is about to become a great math teacher. Excited, Elena says that soon they will meet near the university where they hope to work. However, Oscar is so nervous that he ends up saying he is on vacation and leaves in a hurry. When Oscar returns home, he finds his grandmother and Teao, who is holding the turtle in his hands. Upon seeing him, Oscar faints. Sometime later, he wakes up on the couch, completely confused, until he understands that his little brother has truly traveled through time along with his old pet. As he tries to recover, Teao looks around the house in amazement and is surprised to see a strange television with no buttons. He then asks what year it is, and Oscar tells him is 2022. When Oscar introduces himself as his older brother, Teao is shocked, and the man asks him to tell him everything he knows. Without wasting time, the boy shows him a photograph of their mother and explains that it is the same place where he found the portal that brought him there. Excited by the discovery, Oscar explains that he has spent years researching to better understand how the portals work. Teao, however, is not interested in the explanation and says that he needs to go back before their grandmother in the past gets angry because of his disappearance. Oscar runs with him to the place where the portal was, but both are confused when they discover that it is no longer there. Oscar explains that they will now have to find another one, and while examining the area, he decides to take a picture of the skates that his brother had thrown there a long time ago. After that, Oscar takes Teao to the building where he works and asks him how his turtle managed to cross the portal. Embarrassed, Teao does not answer, and Oscar realizes that his brother was responsible for the animal's disappearance, which deeply disappoints him. Later, Oscar talks to his boss to ask for help in searching for the portal, but the man does not believe any of it and orders him to take the medication that was prescribed to him. Furious, Oscar leaves the place with Teao. When they get home, Oscar introduces his younger brother to Camila, his grandmother's caregiver. He then goes into his office to write down everything they know so far, and Teao is amazed to see how much Oscar has worked on his research over all these years. While his brother writes on the board, Teao asks if they should not use their mother's list, since it might help them find what they are looking for. Confused, Oscar asks Teao what list he is talking about. The boy then remembers that he had hidden one of those pages inside one of his grandmother's old books. Both of them go to ask Maria about the book, and she tells them that she gave it to Manuel, the shop owner. The next day, Oscar and Teao go to the store to talk to him, and when they ask about the book, he explains that he left it at his own house. At that moment, Elena appears, and when she finds out what they are looking for, she offers to take them there. At the house, Oscar starts searching for the book while Teao stays behind playing and talking with the other children. After checking several shelves, Oscar finally finds the page they need. When he calls Teao so they can leave, Elena stops them and says they have just arrived. Oscar tries to explain that his grandmother needs constant care, but Elena offers to take Teao with her and stay to prepare some food, while Teao keeps having fun without worrying about anything. With that settled, Oscar returns to his office. Later, Oscar meets with Teao and tells him that, thanks to the information on the list, he has found a new location that could lead them to another portal. Excited, they both head to the place marked on the map, but when they arrive, they find nothing out of the ordinary. With no results, they return home, determined to continue the investigation from scratch. During those days of work, Teao asks his brother why he never really got close to Elena, even though they have known each other for so many years. Oscar admits that they were never truly friends because, when they were children, Teao always pushed him aside and left him out of everything. Hearing this, Teao feels guilty and, without telling Oscar, uses his phone to text Elena and invite her to have coffee at their house. The next morning, Elena shows up with her family. Completely confused, Oscar tries to stay calm and welcomes them as best he can. Soon after, he tells them that he needs to finish some research and asks them to make themselves comfortable in the living room. Then he goes into his office, puts on his headphones, and listens to the music his mother used to like, trying to focus. Suddenly, Elena walks in without warning and startles him. Seeing the board full of formulas and notes, Oscar explains what he has been working on all these years. Fascinated by the research, Elena says she would like to better understand everything she is seeing. Hours later, Elena takes the kids shopping while Oscar continues checking his calculation. At a store, while Teao is changing clothes in a fitting room, Elena waits outside and realizes that the boy behaves exactly like Oscar's little brother who disappeared many years ago. Understanding that they can no longer keep lying, Teao decides to tell her the truth and explains how he ended up traveling to that timeline. Shocked by the story, Elena returns home to talk to Oscar after catching up on everything they know. Elena decides to join the investigation and use her knowledge of mathematics to review Oscar's calculations. While analyzing them, she discovers an error in the formula. Excited, they correct the mistake and feel that, for the first time, they are truly close to a solution. As the days go by, the progress becomes clearer and clearer until they finally reach a possible location for the next portal. Elena insists that they should go immediately, but Oscar hesitates and asks to check everything one more time. Noticing the change in his attitude, Elena asks if he is actually delaying the trip because he does not want his brother to leave. Although it is hard for him to admit it, Oscar confesses that he feels good having Teao close and that he has always wondered what his life would have been like if his brother had never disappeared. Determined to fix the mistakes of the past, Teao makes a decision on his own and, when night falls, sneaks into the office to steal the paper that contains the coordinates of the new portal. The next morning, Teao secretly meets with his new friends, Alba and Pablo, and asks them to go with him to the place marked on the paper. When they arrive, Teao uses some stones to precisely locate the exact spot where the portal should be. As soon as he identifies it, he does not hesitate and jumps straight into the portal. Remembering that Teao cannot swim, Alba and Pablo jump in as well to help him out of the water. After reaching dry land, the three of them find themselves in front of the city of Corunier. Excited, Teao tells them that they are in the year 1989. However, he soon realizes that something is wrong. After taking a closer look at their surroundings, he understands that they are not in 1989, but in 1949. Worried, the kids begin to wonder how they will be able to return to their own time. Meanwhile, in the present, Oscar and Elena discover that the children have disappeared. Alarmed, they head to one of the portal's coordinates, located in a building that is still under construction. When they arrive, they find a strange mark on the ground floor, and by throwing an object from the top of the structure, they confirm the presence of a portal. Without thinking too much, they gather their courage and jump in, and the portal sends them directly to the year 1989, back in 1949. Teao and his friends discuss what to do in order to survive while they find a way to return. Pablo says he is hungry, but none of them has any money. To solve this, they decide to improvise a small performance in a public square. Teao asks people to say random words so he can write them on a sign, while Alba, wearing earpods, receives the answers that Pablo dictates to her from his phone. The plan works and they manage to collect some money. When they notice the guards approaching, the three of them run away to avoid trouble. However, during their escape, they are intercepted by a mysterious man who orders them to follow him into the depths of the forest. There, they realize that the man belongs to a group that is fighting against the army. Confused, the kids ask why they were taken there, and one of the men explains that he heard the whistle Alba used to alert her friends, a sound identical to the code they used to communicate. Teao says that he learned that whistle from his grandmother. Upon hearing this, the group decides to take them to their leader, who turns out to be none other than Maria, Teao's grandmother in the past. She welcomes him with an emotional hug. Later, Alba asks Teao why he did not tell Maria who he really is, and he explains that they cannot risk changing the future so directly. Meanwhile, in 1989, Oscar and Elena arrive at the family's house looking for the children, but they find no one there. Before they can leave, they hear someone approaching and quickly hide inside a closet. From there, Oscar witnesses a scene that deeply moves him, his younger self lying in bed, crying after another unsuccessful day of searching for his little brother. Exhausted, young Oscar eventually falls asleep. Before leaving, the adult Oscar quietly approaches and promises him that everything will be all right. Back in 1949, Teao and his friends convince Maria to take a photograph with them. Wanting to keep it as an important memory, Teao asks her to promise that she will keep that photo forever. At that very moment, one of the photographs in the present changes and becomes the image they have just taken. When they witness this phenomenon, Oscar and Elena are completely amazed. That is when Oscar realizes something important. His little brother wrote down the exact date on which they became trapped. Understanding this, Oscar is filled with hope, knowing that now they have the information they need to rescue him. Sometime later, Oscar and Elena arrive at the beach where the children had come ashore. After crossing, they use Maria's whistle so the others can recognize them, and the group leads them to the place where Teao is with Alba and Pablo when they reunite. Teao finally makes peace with his brother and apologizes for not thinking about the consequences of everything he was about to cause. With everyone safe, the group gets ready to return. Before leaving, the truck driver gives Maria some bread, a gesture that fills her with joy. At that moment, Oscar and Teao realize something very important. That man is their grandfather, the baker who won Maria's heart during the war. Shortly after, they all return to the year 2022, where they give their grandmother a package of the same bread she used to receive from her late husband, which makes her very happy. Finally, Oscar takes Teao to the portal that will send him back to 1989. Sad, the boy asks why he can't stay in that timeline, but Oscar doesn't answer directly. He only tells him that he loves him and that he is going to miss him. The brothers hug tightly, emotional, and Oscar asks Teao to jump. After saying goodbye, the boy crosses the portal. In 1989, young Oscar sees his brother appear in front of him. Unable to hold back his emotions, they both run to hug each other. Hours later, Teao lies to his grandmother and tells her that he was kidnapped by some criminals who also took Oscar's turtle. Although Maria feels relieved that he is back, she is furious and punishes him, forbidding him to leave the house for a long time. Soon after, Teao runs to look for Oscar, who is throwing away all his folders, convinced that he will never see his turtle or his mother again. To calm him down, Teao takes out the adult Oscar's cell phone and tells him that he brought it directly from the year 2022. He also explains that their mother's theory was on the right track and only needed a few adjustments to her mathematical formulas. Finally, Teao assures his brother that if he keeps investigating, he will manage to find their mother, because in the future, he will become a brilliant and very talented scientist. These words fill Oscar with emotion. Relieved to know that everything will turn out well, Teao hugs him tightly, convinced that from that moment on, both of them will have everything they need to be reunited with their mother. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you think about this movie.